Roughly 1 in 5 Americans over 60 has measurable narrowing of the arteries that carry blood to the hands and feet. Tens of millions of people right now with cold fingers, cold toes, and a level of fatigue they've been told is just aging. By the time you finish this video, several thousand more will join them. And the part nobody explains clearly is this. Cold hands and cold feet are not a comfort problem. They are a signal that your circulation is closing down and your body is choosing to protect your core organs first. I'm Dr. Chen. I'm a researcher and health educator, and I've spent most of my career studying vascular health and the everyday habits that quietly damage it. My job on this channel is to take what's buried in medical journals and translate it into something you can actually use, the kind of explanation your doctor would love to give you if your visit weren't 15 minutes long. If you want clear, evidence-based health information that respects your intelligence, subscribe to this channel and tap the like button. We're working toward 100,000 subscribers, and every one of you moves that number forward. There's a link in the description for the community where I share follow-up checklists and short posts. Here is what you're going to learn today. You'll understand exactly why your hands and feet keep getting cold. You'll see the 5 quiet habits that are closing down your peripheral arteries year after year. You'll learn about one inexpensive spice that has real research behind its ability to widen blood vessels and restore warmth to the extremities, plus 4 supporting habits that make it work twice as well. You'll know what to do this week. Not next year, this week. Most people who get cold hands and cold feet assume it's just how their body runs. Some people are warm-blooded, some are cold-blooded. That's the story most of us were told growing up, and it's wrong in the way that matters most. What's actually happening is this. Your body has a priority system for blood, and that system is not democratic. Your brain, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, these are non-negotiable. They get blood under every circumstance. Your hands, your feet, the tip of your nose, the surface of your skin, these are the negotiable zone. When the body senses any kind of stress to the circulatory system, whether from cold air, low water intake, narrowed arteries, or a sluggish heart, it pulls blood away from the extremities and concentrates it where the high priority organs live. Think of your circulation like a city's water system late at night. When the reservoir pressure drops, the city doesn't shut down the hospital first. It shuts down the outermost neighborhoods. The pipes are still there, the infrastructure is intact, but the water just doesn't reach those addresses anymore. Your fingers and toes are those outermost neighborhoods. And in most people over 60, the pressure has been quietly dropping for years. So when you reach for a sweater in a room everyone else finds comfortable, or you sleep with socks on in July, what your body is telling you is that the pressure to the outer neighborhoods is no longer reliable. The arteries that carry blood out to your hands and feet are either narrower than they should be, less responsive than they should be, or both. And here is the part that most people genuinely don't realize. The same narrowing process is happening in arteries you can't feel, the ones supplying your heart and your brain. Cold extremities aren't an isolated annoyance. They are the most visible, most accessible warning sign of a system-wide change. That is the whole point of this video. Cold hands and cold feet are not a comfort problem. They are a circulation problem. And once you understand the mechanism, you can do something about it starting tomorrow morning, with ingredients already in your kitchen. To understand how to widen your blood vessels again, you need to understand what they're actually made of. Every artery in your body has 3 layers, but the one that matters most for what we're talking about today is the inner lining. It's called the endothelium, and it's 1 cell thick. 1 single layer of cells coating the inside of every blood vessel in your body. If you laid that lining flat, it would cover roughly half a tennis court. That's how much surface area we're working with inside you right now. The endothelium does something remarkable. It's not just a passive coating. It actively produces a gas called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is your body's natural vessel-relaxing signal. When the endothelium releases it, the smooth muscle wrapped around your arteries relaxes, the vessel widens, and blood flow increases. When endothelial function is healthy, your arteries respond to demand. They open when you exercise, they open when you eat, they open when you're cold, and your body needs to warm the extremities. Here's the analogy that helps. Think of your endothelium like the smooth coating on a nonstick pan. When the coating is intact, food slides off. Nothing sticks. But once the coating gets scratched from heat, from harsh utensils, from repeated wear, food starts catching on those rough patches and burning on. Your endothelium works the same way. When it's smooth and healthy, blood components glide past. When it's been roughened up by years of high blood sugar, smoking, inflammation, or just plain wear, things start to stick. Cholesterol particles, immune cells, platelets, they all find purchase on those damaged spots. Over time, those sticky spots become plaques, and plaques narrow the arteries. This process has a name. Atherosclerosis just means the gradual hardening and narrowing of arteries from plaque buildup. And here's what most people don't know. Atherosclerosis doesn't progress evenly throughout the body. It tends to show up first in two places, the arteries leading to the heart and the arteries leading to the hands and feet. That's why peripheral artery disease, which is the medical term for narrowing of the arteries to the extremities, is considered a strong predictor of heart disease. If your hands and feet are running cold, the arteries near your heart are very likely under the same kind of pressure. There's a second mechanism worth understanding because it explains why the spice we're going to talk about works so well. Your blood vessels are wrapped in smooth muscle, and that smooth muscle is controlled by your autonomic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that runs in the background without conscious control. When you're under stress, when you're cold, when you've had too much caffeine, your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight branch, sends signals telling those smooth muscles to clamp down. The vessels narrow. Blood flow to the extremities drops further. This isn't damage. This is your nervous system actively constricting the pipes. That clamp down is called vasoconstriction. The opposite opening the vessels back up is called vasodilation. Your hands and feet stay warm only when vasodilation outpaces vasoconstriction across the day. Now combine these two mechanisms. You have a long-term issue, which is the gradual narrowing of arteries from endothelial damage and plaque. And you have a short-term issue, which is your nervous system constantly telling those already narrowed vessels to clamp down further. Cold extremities are the meeting point of both. The pipes are narrower than they should be, and the body keeps tightening them on top of that. This is why every year you wait, the damage compounds. The longer your endothelium runs roughened, the more plaque accumulates. The longer your nervous system stays in chronic clampdown mode, the more your vessels lose their flexibility, what doctors call vasomotor reserve. That's the ability of a vessel to respond appropriately when conditions change. Lose enough of it and your arteries become rigid pipes that don't widen even when they should. The good news is that the endothelium is responsive. It heals, it rebuilds. You can train it back toward producing more nitric oxide more reliably with the right inputs. And that's exactly what the rest of this video is about. Before we get to the solutions, you need to know what's been working against you. There are 5 everyday habits that quietly narrow your peripheral arteries and keep your hands and feet cold. Most people have at least 3 of them. Many over 60 have all 5. The first is chronic mild dehydration. This is the most underestimated cause of cold extremities in older adults, and it's almost completely invisible from the inside. Your thirst signal weakens significantly after about age 60. You can be 3 to 4% dehydrated and not feel thirsty at all. When you're mildly dehydrated, your blood volume drops. Your body responds by pulling blood inward to protect the core organs and tightening the peripheral vessels to keep pressure stable. Cold hands, cold feet, not because the temperature changed, because the volume of fluid moving through your vessels dropped. A common scenario in clinical case notes is an older adult who drinks coffee in the morning, maybe a glass of water with lunch, tea in the afternoon, and wonders why their hands feel like ice by evening. The math just doesn't work. The body isn't getting enough fluid to maintain peripheral circulation. The second is inactive calf muscles. Your heart pumps blood out to your extremities, but it has surprisingly little power to pump it back. The return trip is handled mostly by your calf muscles. Every time you walk, every time you take a step, your calves contract and squeeze the deep veins in your legs, pushing blood back up toward the heart. Doctors call this the calf muscle pump. Some call it your second heart. When you sit for hours at a time, and most people over 60 now sit for 10 hours a day or more between meals, screens, and rest, that pump stops working. Blood pools in the lower legs. Fresh blood can't flow into the extremities efficiently because there's nowhere for it to go. Your feet get cold even though your house is warm. The mechanism isn't temperature, it's stagnation. The third is refined carbohydrates and blood sugar instability. Every time your blood sugar spikes from a sweet breakfast, a soda, white bread, or a pastry, your body releases a wave of insulin to clear it. Repeated insulin spikes damage the endothelium directly. Glucose particles in concentrated form scrape against the inner lining of your vessels, leaving the same kind of roughness we talked about with the nonstick pan. Over years, this is one of the strongest accelerators of atherosclerosis we know of. Even people who don't have diabetes can have endothelial damage from chronic blood sugar swings. And here's the part that catches people off guard. The damage doesn't just narrow arteries, it also impairs nitric oxide production. The endothelium becomes less responsive. Your vessels can't widen even when they should. The fourth is nicotine in any form. Cigarettes, vapes, nicotine pouches, nicotine gum used long term. Every dose of nicotine you take in causes immediate, measurable constriction of peripheral arteries. Within minutes of a cigarette or a vape, the temperature of your fingertips drops noticeably. Nicotine also damages the endothelium chemically, increases the stickiness of platelets, and accelerates plaque formation. People who smoke or vape long-term have roughly 2 to 4 times the rate of peripheral artery disease compared to non-users with the same age and diet. If you've quit, your endothelium begins healing within weeks. If you haven't, this is the single highest leverage change available to you for restoring circulation to your hands and feet. The fifth is chronic stress and shallow breathing. When you're in a sustained stress state, your sympathetic nervous system stays elevated. Your blood vessels stay slightly clamped down all day. Most people don't notice this because it's the background hum of modern life. But your fingertips notice, your toes notice. People in chronic stress states almost always have cooler hands and feet than relaxed people of the same age, and shallow chest breathing makes it worse. Every full diaphragmatic breath you take engages the vagus nerve, which is the main nerve of the parasympathetic system, your rest and recover system. The parasympathetic system tells your vessels to relax. Shallow breathing keeps that signal off. Your sympathetic system runs the show. Your extremities stay cold. That's 5. Most adults over 60 are running with 3 to 5 of these active at any given moment. The good news is that every single one of them is reversible. I want to tell you about someone whose story is the textbook version of this. Call her Margaret, 67, retired librarian, lives in upstate New York, walked into her doctor's office with a complaint she felt almost embarrassed to mention. She'd been reaching for a heating pad in July, sleeping in wool socks. Her hands would go numb cold within minutes of stepping outside in fall, even with gloves. She'd been told for years that some women just run cold, especially after menopause. She accepted it for almost a decade. Then she started noticing something else. The skin on her shins was thinner. A small cut on her ankle took 3 weeks to heal. Her toenails were growing more slowly than they used to. None of these things, individually, looked like a medical issue. Together, they were a pattern. Her doctor ran a simple test called an ankle brachial index, which compares the blood pressure in your ankle to the blood pressure in your arm. Margaret's index showed mild peripheral artery disease, early-stage narrowing of the leg arteries, exactly the picture I've been describing. The question nobody had asked her was this: how much water do you drink in a day? How much time do you spend on your feet? When did you last get your blood sugar checked? When she actually answered those questions honestly, the picture filled in completely. 2 cups of coffee, maybe 1 glass of water, sitting most of the day reading. Hadn't had her A1C checked in 4 years? She wasn't unhealthy. She was running quietly against her own circulation, and her hands and feet were telling her so. 6 months of changes, including the spice we're about to talk about, and her hands stopped going cold in the evening. That's a real timeline. Real, modest, achievable change. Before I give you the solutions, I want to ask you something directly. How old are you right now? Write it in the comments below. The reason I ask is that the speed at which your peripheral arteries narrow changes meaningfully after 60 and again after 70. The same habits that cause slow vessel damage at 40 cause noticeably faster damage at 65. Knowing the age range of the people watching this changes what I emphasize in future videos and what I prioritize in the follow-up checklists. Drop your number below. I read those comments. Now for the part you came here for. Here are the 5 things that actually open your peripheral arteries back up, starting with the cheap spice that does more than most people realize. The first and the headline solution is cayenne pepper. The active compound is called capsaicin, and it's the same molecule that gives chili peppers their heat. Capsaicin does 3 things to your circulation that are well documented in the research literature. First, it activates a receptor called TRPV1, which triggers the release of a vessel-relaxing compound called CGRP. Second, it stimulates the enzyme that makes nitric oxide, the same vessel-relaxing gas we talked about earlier. Third, it improves the flexibility of red blood cells, which lets them squeeze through narrowed capillaries more easily and reach tissue that's been undersupplied. The net effect is a measurable warming of the hands and feet, sometimes within the first hour after a meaningful dose. How to take it? Start small. 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper stirred into half a cup of warm water once a day with food, never on an empty stomach. The food matters. Capsaicin on an empty stomach can irritate the lining. With food, it absorbs gently and works the same. After 1 week, if you tolerate it well, increase to 1/4 teaspoon. Some people work up to half a teaspoon over a month. You can also add it to soups, eggs, vegetable dishes, or any savory food. The form doesn't matter much. What matters is consistency and the dose actually entering your body regularly. One important caveat, and this is exactly the kind of thing your doctor needs to know. Capsaicin can mildly affect blood platelet function. If you take a blood thinner like warfarin, aspirin, clopidogrel, or any of the newer anticoagulants, talk to your doctor before starting a daily cayenne protocol. The interaction is usually mild, but it deserves a conversation, not a guess. The same applies if you have an active stomach ulcer or active reflux. The second solution is the calf pump exercise. This is the single most effective movement you can do for peripheral circulation in your legs. Stand behind a chair or counter for balance. Rise up onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels as high as you can. Hold for 2 seconds. Lower slowly. That's 1 repetition. Aim for 200 per day. You don't do them all at once. You break them up, 20 after breakfast, 20 before lunch, 20 in the afternoon, and so on. Every set squeezes the deep veins in your calves and refreshes the blood supply to your feet. People who do this consistently report warmer feet within 2 weeks. The mechanism is simple. You're running your second heart. The third solution is structured hydration. Not just more water, better timed water. Drink 1 full glass, about 16 ounces, warm, not cold, within 30 minutes of waking up. This single habit corrects most of the overnight blood volume drop that contributes to morning cold extremities. Add a squeeze of fresh lemon if you like. Then drink another full glass mid-morning, 1 before lunch, 1 in the mid-afternoon, and a small glass with dinner. That's roughly 2.5 to 3 liters across the day, spaced out so your body actually absorbs it. Cold water constricts peripheral vessels temporarily, which is why I emphasize warm or room temperature. The goal is to support circulation, not challenge it. The fourth solution is contrast hydrotherapy for the feet. This is a practice borrowed from physical therapy, and it's been used for decades to train the responsiveness of peripheral blood vessels. Fill 1 basin with warm water around 104 degrees Fahrenheit, comfortable, not scalding. Fill another with cool water around 65 degrees Fahrenheit, cool, not icy. Sit comfortably. Soak your feet in the warm water for 3 minutes, then switch to the cool water for 30 seconds. Repeat 3 times. Always end on cool. Do this 3 evenings a week. The alternating temperatures force your peripheral vessels to widen and narrow on demand, training back the vasomotor reserve we talked about earlier. If you have advanced peripheral artery disease, diabetes with neuropathy, or any condition that affects sensation in your feet, talk to your doctor before starting contrast baths. You need to be able to feel temperature accurately for this to be safe. The fifth solution is magnesium-rich evening foods. Magnesium is a natural vasodilator. It helps the smooth muscle wrapped around your blood vessels relax. Most adults over 60 are mildly magnesium deficient, partly from reduced absorption, partly from depleted soil in commercial agriculture. The foods richest in usable magnesium are pumpkin seeds, almonds, cashews, dark leafy greens, black beans, and dark chocolate at 70% cacao or higher. Aim for one solid magnesium-rich food at dinner: a handful of pumpkin seeds, half a cup of cooked spinach, 2 squares of dark chocolate. This isn't a megadose protocol, it's a daily input. Over weeks, magnesium tissue levels climb, and your vessels relax more reliably overnight. Those are the 5. Cayenne pepper as the headline. Calf pump exercises, structured hydration, contrast foot baths, and magnesium-rich foods as the supporting cast. Done together, they work measurably faster than any one of them alone. Here is what one day of this protocol actually looks like in practice, so you can see it as a routine, not a list. You wake up. Before anything else, drink a full glass of warm water with a squeeze of lemon. Sit with it for a few minutes. Your body has just spent 8 hours without fluid, and your blood volume is at its lowest point of the day. This glass corrects that. Breakfast: eggs, vegetables, a piece of whole grain toast, something with real protein and real fiber. Sprinkle 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper onto your eggs, or stir it into a savory dish. With food, never on an empty stomach. Take your time eating. Mid-morning, another glass of water. While you're at it, stand behind a chair and do 20 calf raises. Slow up, slow down. It takes about 90 seconds. Lunch: a real meal. Vegetables, protein, a moderate portion of complex carbohydrates if you tolerate them well. Drink water with the meal. 20 more calf raises afterward, before you sit back down. Afternoon: another glass of water around 3 o'clock. 20 more calf raises. If you've been sitting a lot, take a 5-minute walk around your house or yard. The point isn't fitness. The point is circulation. Dinner: include a magnesium-rich food, a side of cooked spinach, a handful of pumpkin seeds in the salad, half a cup of black beans, whatever fits the meal naturally. 1 more glass of water with dinner. Evening: 3 nights a week, run the contrast foot bath. 3 minutes warm, 30 seconds cool, 3 rounds. Pat your feet dry, put on cotton socks. Notice how warm they feel as you settle in for the evening. Before bed: 2 squares of dark chocolate if you enjoy it. 5 slow diaphragmatic breaths, belly rising on the inhale, falling on the exhale. This activates your parasympathetic system and tells your blood vessels to relax through the night. That's the day. Nothing exotic, nothing expensive, nothing that requires a special trip to a specialty store. The whole protocol costs less than a single doctor's visit. What should you actually expect, and when? In the first week, the most common thing people notice is a warming sensation in the chest and face about 20 minutes after the cayenne dose. That's normal. That's the capsaicin doing exactly what it's supposed to do, stimulating vasodilation. Some people also notice their feet feel slightly warmer in the evening within 4 or 5 days, mostly from the calf raises and hydration. The change is subtle. Don't expect a transformation in 7 days. In weeks 2 and 3, the morning chill in your hands typically eases noticeably. Your fingertips reach a warmer baseline. People often report sleeping with 1 fewer layer than before, or kicking the blanket partway off in the night, small signs that your body is no longer pulling so much blood inward. In weeks 4 through 6, this is when the patient's stories start sounding similar. Hands no longer go cold in air conditioning. Toes stay warm through an evening of sitting. Some people who used to wear socks to bed stop needing them. Skin on the shins begins to feel slightly softer because peripheral microcirculation has improved. In weeks 8 through 12, the changes consolidate. If you've stayed consistent, you'll have rebuilt a meaningful amount of endothelial function. Your nitric oxide response will be stronger. Your vasomotor reserve will have widened. This is the point where, if you went back to your doctor and asked for another ankle brachial index, you'd want to see a number that's moved in the right direction. The honest truth is that arteries don't fully reverse decades of narrowing in 3 months. But they don't have to. Even modest improvement in endothelial function produces noticeable improvement in symptoms and starts changing the longer trajectory. Let me bring this together. Cold hands and cold feet are not just a comfort issue. They are your body telling you that the pipes carrying blood to your extremities are narrower than they should be, and that your nervous system is making the situation worse by keeping those pipes clamped down. The damage has two layers long-term, narrowing from a roughened endothelium and accumulated plaque, and short-term constriction from chronic stress, low blood volume, and inactive muscles. Both are reversible, not completely, but meaningfully. And the leverage points are simple enough that you can act on them this week. Here is what to remember. 5 quiet habits close down your peripheral arteries: chronic mild dehydration, inactive calf muscles, refined carbohydrates and blood sugar spikes, nicotine in any form, and chronic stress with shallow breathing. 5 practical actions widen them back up: daily cayenne pepper at a small, well-tolerated dose, 200 calf raises spread across the day, structured warm hydration timed across the day, contrast foot baths 3 evenings a week, and magnesium-rich foods at dinner. Cayenne is the headline because it's cheap, fast-acting, and well-studied. The other 4 make it work twice as well. Everything I've shared today is for your education, not as a substitute for personal medical advice. If you take any blood thinner, have peripheral artery disease, diabetes with foot complications, an active ulcer, or any other condition that affects your circulation, bring this list to your doctor and have a conversation. Your situation is specific to you, and a real conversation about what fits your body is always more valuable than a video on the internet. If this video gave you something useful, subscribe to this channel and tap the like button. We are working toward 100,000 subscribers, and every one of you genuinely moves that number. The community link is in the description for the follow-up checklist on this video: what to drink, when to drink it, and the exact calf raise schedule in a printable format. The most useful medicine is the kind you learn to apply yourself. Your hands and feet have been telling you something for years. Now you know what they're saying. Start with the glass of water tomorrow morning. Build from there.